In the previous lecture, we talked about 7 layers which are there in GGPlot 2. 3 layers which are mandatory are data, aesthetics and geom. Let's look at these layers first. We have a data set which is empty cars and which we have used earlier quite a lot in previous 2 approaches of plotting. So if I want to see what is in empty cars, I can look at structure of empty cars, and it tells me that in empty cars dataset we have mpg, miles per gallon, number of cylinders, displacement, hp, and so many other parameters. So now we want to plot this particular dataset, empty cars. In this dataset, what do we want? I want miles per gallon. I want to draw a histogram of miles per gallon. But then let's go layer by layer. My first layer is data. So what we do in ggplot2 package is, and remember that ggplot2 is the package name and the command name is ggplot. So let me clean this console by pressing Ctrl L, and now here I want to put ggplot, and in ggplot I want to give data is equal to empty car. So this is one layer which I need to define. But before I use ggplot, let me load that ggplot2 package in this session, and for that I use command library and I put ggplot2 and enter. So now ggplot2 has been loaded in this session. Now I will use the first layer, which is the data layer. In data layer, I need to provide the name of the data, and I know that empty cars data set is available currently in this session. So what I will do is ggplot and I will put data is equal to empty cars, enter. What happens? You see that nothing has happened. Only thing which you see in your plot section is that you see a blank screen, a blank area has been created for the plot. Nothing else has happened. And as I earlier told, that we need 3 layers before we really can see the graph. So now I know that this is the data set, but then in this data set there are so many things. What do I want to plot? I want to plot mpg, miles per gallon, as a histogram. So the next thing which I want to do is define aesthetics. In aesthetics, I want to define what all I want to plot, and that I do using this command and comma AES, which is for aesthetics, and in the bracket I give all the aesthetics for this graph. In this particular case, my aesthetics is that on x-axis I want mpg. If this was a scatter plot, I would have given x-axis and y-axis parameters as well. What I want on x-axis, what I want on y-axis. But here I want to draw a histogram, and for that I just need to give one value, which is the x. So for that I give x is equal to miles per gallon, bracket close, and the second bracket close. So now I have defined 2 layers. The first layer is data, the second layer is aesthetics. With this, now if I press enter, the only thing has happened is now this ggplot2 knows that on x-axis I want to draw mpg. So you see on x-axis mpg has been given and numbers have been provided. But then still the system or ggplot doesn't know that what do I want to plot. I want to plot a histogram, and that I need to tell in the geom. Let's do that now. So closing this, now I need to add a geom layer. Geom layer will tell that what do I want out of this particular data and this aesthetics. So I use the same command, and now what I can do is I can use plus sign and I can define geom. That's one approach, geom. And if you see in geom, there are a number of geometries. Which geom I want? I want a histogram. So I select geom, histogram. I don't put anything else. And with this, if I press enter, I get a histogram. When I get a histogram, I get a warning here as well that in histogram, the bins is equal to 30 has been used, which is a default value. So when you plot a histogram, it defines 30 bins, but you have a small set of data. 30 bins are too many number of bins. If you want to reduce that, you can use bin width is equal to 6 or number of bins is equal to. So you can provide either number of bins or you can provide bin width. let's say in this particular case, I want to define number of bins as 6 bins. So what I will do is I will use the same command, and here I will say that bins is equal to 6. I can define 6 bins instead of 30 bins. And with this, I press enter, and here I get 6 bins defined. Instead of 6 bins, you can define bin width also. So bin width will be, when I say bin width is equal to 6, that means this will take from 0 to 6, 6 to 12, and so on. So if I press this as command, now here I get the bin width as 6. So probably that also gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That gives you basically 5 number of bins if I use the bin width as 6. So this is how you draw a histogram using GGPlot 2. So this was a very basic, simple first plot we wanted to draw. Before we move to the next lecture, another thing which I want to show here is that this command or this plot you can save as an object. And what does that mean is that let's move on to this first command here. In this case, I have not defined the geom here. So I have defined only 2 layers, data and statics. I can save this as P as an object. In P object, I want to save these 2 layers. So if I save this and press enter here, now these 2 layers, data and statics, have been saved in P. And what I can do here is now P plus, now here I can put geom underscore histogram and press enter. So this gives me geom histogram. In the same thing, if I use geom histogram, and here if I want to give, let's say, bins is equal to 8, using the same P, in the P we have already saved these 2 layers. So on top of these 2 layers, you can add third layer. Third layer was the geom histogram, and you can add few more layers as well. So let's quickly look at another layer, which is, let's say, theme layer. What I can do is on the same one here, P plus geom histogram, bins is equal to 8. I can add another layer, and another layer is my theme layer. So here, if I put my theme layer as let's say black and white. We will talk about themes later as a last layer out of those 7 layers, but I just want to demonstrate that here. If I add theme here, I see a different theme where the white background and the black. So black and white gives me the black and white histogram. So I added another layer on top of my existing histogram. So that's how you can add layers on top of each other. So this was a basic introduction to GGPlot 2, and we have drawn a basic simple histogram using first 3 layers. In the next lecture, we will use few more geometries, few more geoms on the same data to see that how using these 2 existing layers we can plot different plots. So let's move on to the next lecture and look at different types of geoms we can use in this particular simple case of plot. Let's move on to the next lecture and see that.